All right, hi, Olajumoke. So let's take a look at your essay. Here we've got international marketing. Recently, international marketing has become the paradigm of sales. Some people consider this as an invasion and intrusion to the country, while others believe this is a positive development because of the educational opportunity it presents, such as creating chances to broaden languages, the cultural exposure, as well as a port for transmission of ideas and information. All right, it's a really long sentence. I'm going to advise you to shorten it. Take a look. Look how long it goes. It's like 4 lines long. So it's just too much. And you could have, honestly, if I were you, I would have stopped it right here. You didn't need to discuss the such as, not in this sentence, okay? This essay will be analyzing both views and with demonstrated examples and also state my opinion. All right, that's another thing. I don't want you to wait until the conclusion to give your opinion. The reason why it can be found in the question itself. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. What that means is that you're not supposed to give your opinion in the conclusion. You really need to mention it in your introduction, all right? This is how you can guarantee that your position is clear throughout the essay. Okay, so let's move on. To begin, wow, you really developed this, didn't you? To begin with, supporters of this marketing approach claim that, no comma, international marketing helps to showcase cultures. For instance, internet pop-up adverts on tourism. These adverts magnify, that's, you don't really need a semicolon here because there's no verb, all right? So it's really just, what you could have done here instead, I think what would have been better is one example of this is internet pop-up adverts, or are internet pop-up adverts on tourism. These adverts magnify the beauty of a country in an attractive way and encourage, no S, tourists to explore those regions. A good example is an advertisement, or how about this? One such example, since you just said one example up here, one such example is an advertisement for a tourist center known as the Trafalgar Square in England. Their example, evidence that the UK, all right, this is irrelevant. This doesn't fit here, okay? And in fact, I don't really know how valuable it is for you to include this whole thing about Trafalgar Square as well. You might just be going a little too far here, because remember, what are we talking about? We're talking about international advertising. So, international marketing, excuse me. So what you could have said is, maybe you could have combined these two. So something like one such example is advertisements for tourist areas in England, such as Trafalgar Square, which not only generates considerable income for the UK, but also informs people around the world about the culture and the tourist sites in England. So it's that's one way you could have done this. Another claim is the spreading of ideas. All right, you can't just combine these two ideas with a comma because they're two separate ideas, and a comma is not enough to link them. Here is where you could have used a semicolon. That would have been appropriate, okay? But not entirely what you did here. So semicolon would have worked here. There's no secret that the United States prey on this opportunity. Prey has a kind of negative meaning here. I don't know if this is what you wanted to do. Maybe it is. Several ideas such as America's, apostrophe S, Got Talent, capital G, capital T, Big Brother, capital B, The Voice, capital, from a country like the United States, capital with an S, have been publicized to the extent of replication in other countries. This franchise avenue produces additional income for these organizations and invariably to the country. For these reasons, some people are convinced that international marketing is a necessary tool to broadcast ideas and a good avenue for cultural and language expansion. All right, I'm a little confused by this. I don't really know how this relates to the topic. I mean, this sounds to me just like, these reality show franchises. I don't know how this is related to international marketing. I have a big question mark in my head here. It does feel, the whole thing feels a little irrelevant. And you're telling me that they broadcast ideas But what are those ideas, really? They produce income. That's irrelevant. We're not asking about income. You say that they are replicated in other countries. Okay, so if they're replicated, I imagine, by different versions, then how is this international marketing? So I feel like this whole part of the paragraph is not totally relevant, all right? All right, so let's move on. Despite this argument, another group of people consider international marketing as a nuisance to the country. They believe that, oftentimes, the products are not applicable in another, one word, culture. Besides, the targeted demographics may not need them. Okay. For example, some absurd adverts with an S about singles dating pop up on children's laptops. Okay. Except that this isn't international, is it? Okay, is it? I mean, it doesn't sound like it. So it seems a little, it could be domestic advertising, marketing is what I mean. Even though the promotion may be relevant for some people, it is hardly appropriate in all settings. Another point of claim is that marketing can be misleading. A good instance is a recent election in the USA where fake advert news was broadcasted and allegedly people were misled. Yeah, okay, again, but how is this international marketing? Lastly, a recent study shows that an average North American receives overwhelming, tens of marketing emails daily. All right, this is grammatically wrong. My complaint with this paragraph, as you've probably guessed, is that you're talking about marketing fails in general, but they're not related to international marketing. So it's peripherally on topic, but it's not truly on topic, okay? Because you're supposed to be talking about international. That's the whole point here. Okay, so in my opinion, although international marketing may be misleading, overwhelming, and unnecessary for people, all right, then you don't need a however, because if you have an although, you don't need a however. You have to just pick one. It is a good way to spread ideas, communicate cultures, and learn languages. I believe it is essential for organizations and countries to showcase their communities or products in a captivating and valuable way. All right, that's fine, as long as you fix this. I told you already what I thought was off topic here, so you should have a clearer idea about that. And here also I felt like some of the things you talked about, again, weren't related to international marketing. They did seem off topic. So you've tried to answer this appropriately, but unfortunately it missed the mark in a couple of areas. So I want you to look into that a little bit. Maybe review, look online, see what's involved in international marketing, what we mean by it, so that you can get a better idea and answer this more appropriately, okay? Now let's take a look at this task 1, most expensive cities for average hotel stay. The figure illustrates the average daily cost of a hotel stay in 6 countries. Well, they're not 6 countries, are they? They're actually 6 cities. So careful, so this is accurate. Okay, and then you name them, fine. Clearly, an average of $300 is paid daily on hotels in these cities. Okay, why did you come up with that? An average of 300. Okay, this isn't really an overview. In fact, that seems to me more like a detail, and like you've kind of made this conclusion. An overview should tell you something a little different. When you're writing an overview, it needs to basically show you the main trend. Okay, the main thing you see, the biggest thing you see. So what kind of thing would be appropriate here? You could have said that of the 6 cities, Monte Carlo had the most expensive hotel price, and Moscow the least. Well, you could have just focused on Monte Carlo, but that would have been a good thing. So you could have said, of the 6 cities, Monte Carlo had the most expensive average hotel stay, and Moscow had the least. That's what an overview should look like. All right. Overall, the smallest amount of money was not used, but was net. The smallest amount of money was needed for hotels in Moscow, but the most amount noted was in Monte Carlo. See, this is what I said should have been your overview. And you said it here, but then this doesn't make sense. So what are you doing? What are you doing here? Do you have 2 overviews? Like I said, this should have been your overview, and this just should have been left out. An average of 284.73 is recorded in Key West, capital, while New York has 304. All right, so what is that? Why are you talking to me now about Key West and New York? Is it the second most expensive? Is it the third? I mean, make this clear, okay? You started talking about Key West and New York, but I don't understand why you selected those two cities. Both New York and Key West appear to be neither the minimum nor here, the most expensive. All right, then why did you start talking about them? This seems really rather random. You started with Moscow, and then you started with Monte Carlo, and then you go somewhere in the middle. So it doesn't seem to be logically organized. On the other hand, people hardly spent much in Moscow, which had the lowest figure of this, and seconded by Rio de Janeiro, which was second to the least expensive. All right, that's kind of what seconded means, isn't it? But this, you're right. I would have preferred not to have this and just to have this. So you could have said had the lowest figure, followed by Rio de Janeiro, which was the second to the least expensive. Monte Carlo was the highest ranked, not highest ranked, most expensive. Careful. City at this, closely followed by Muscat at this. The figure represents the 6 most expensive cities according to the average hotel stay, with the majority of the data falling between. Okay. This is also out of place here. This is not where it belongs. This could have, I don't know, probably nowhere, or maybe in your overview. I don't know, but there's definitely a lot of problems with the organization of your answer. If I may, I'd like to tell you what I think you should have done. I already told you, basically. So obviously you have an introduction, and then you say that of the 6 cities, Monte Carlo's hotel stay was the most expensive, and the least was Moscow. Then you switch paragraphs, and then you go into, actually what I would have done is I would have talked about these 3. So I would have said that of the 6 cities in question, 3 cities had an average hotel stay of over $300. See? Okay? I would have said then Monte Carlo was the most, and I would have said it was. This was followed by a difference of $11. Okay, so you do a little comparison here in Muscat, and then you whatever. Okay, and then you say rounding out the top 3 was New York at just over $300. Full stop. Then you go to the next paragraph, and you can say that the 3 remaining cities, Key West, Rio de Janeiro, and Moscow, were under $300 per night. So you can then do something very similar in that way. And this, I think, is a good way to organize this. Okay, so you're giving details, you're making comparisons, and then what I think is really effective is if you then at the end just kind of want to summarize, you could say, you don't have to, but it's a nice thing to do. You could say that the most expensive compared to the least expensive had a, I don't know, what is that a difference of? It's like, oh, let me do some quick math, like a difference of like $60 per day. All right, so that would have been a nice thing to do just to show what this really means, like what do these differences actually tell us, okay? So that's a nice way to do it. These are my suggestions on how to do this. I'd like to see more work from you. I'd like to see you, signing up to the course, because the kinds of things that we're talking about in this video correction are some of the things that you'll get in the course as well. And of course, through the essay corrections that you get with us, you'll get this kind of feedback and a lot more, all right? I look forward to seeing more essays from you. I hope to see you on the course. Good luck to you.